everyone. My name is Harris from the RNG Project, and today we have a special one for you. We are going over Call of Duty Black Ops 6. This is Treyarch's monolithic sixth entry into the series. We'll be going over the good, the bad, some of the confusing, and figuring out whether or not this game is all that it's hyped up to be. So, stay tuned.
We will stay the course, and we will succeed. And there can be no doubt. Operation Desert Storm is working.
Black Ops 6 takes place shortly after the events of Cold War, Adler's betrayal, and Woods, unfortunately, due to the events, being put into a wheelchair. The era is the early 90s, and it starts out with a automatic deep dive into CIA corruption, the military complex in full swing with mercenary groups coming out of nowhere, and the unexpected realliance with Adler and the political failures of the US during that time. Now, again, a lot of this is purely fictional, but there are some mirrors to what happened during the 90s. So, with Black Ops 6 taking place during the 90s, I do believe it is 1991 to be exact. Black Ops 6 is mostly going to focus on the Gulf War. A lot of what happened during the Gulf War, as well as the typical Treyarch spin, where the CIA is compromised and Woods and his team are the only people left to save the US from itself and a new shadow paramilitary group that is trying to infringe and carry influence within the Middle East. So, with all that said, Treyarch decided to take a huge departure from their normal linear storytelling and kind of go down a route that was set place in Modern Warfare 3, but also keeping true to how Call of Duty Cold War was originally trying to be, where it was more open worldish. So you had a base that you went to for your missions rather than going from menu to menu. And they try to incorporate both of what Modern Warfare 3 and Cold War tried to achieve. It is a huge departure from the normal linear storytelling that Treyarch it was very much a fan of. They do a good job at telling an espionage story without making it seem too boxed in. But with Black Ops 6, they really go out of their way to make it feel like the choice is yours. And again, that's going back to how Modern Warfare 3 was originally set up to be, but it's not just all set within essentially a warzone map. In Black Ops 6, you have a base that you return to after every mission. You will discuss things with your team, recruit new people throughout the campaign. You'll upgrade your said base with woods and money that you find during the campaign. And a lot of the story has essentially play your way style of gameplay. And from what I've seen so far, a lot of the choices you make in how you play tend to affect the overall storyline. Unlike what Modern Warfare 3 originally had, where essentially you had point A to B, it didn't matter how you got there, and the story carried on, regardless of if it was a stealth mission and you went guns blazing and essentially lit up the entire map. It would be the same type of storyline that follows. Where in Black Ops 6, a lot of the choices that you make, they're still a bit simplistic, but they do matter. The there are certain objectives within a mission that you'll be asked to complete, and a lot of the story beats hinge on whether or not you complete those objectives. I do believe that this is a huge step up for the Call of Duty games in terms of overall campaign feel. It makes it unique to the Call of Duty experience where players were kind of saying that Call of Duty was essentially a copy paste style story where America's good, you fight Russian or Middle Eastern bad guys, and you load up a brand new mission, and it's essentially the same person. Didn't matter if it was Chekhov, it didn't matter who the bad guy was. It was essentially the same person, just different skin. Uh, Black Ops 6 does hold true to what they were marketing, and that they wanted this game to be an action movie. It is a equal parts espionage, spy thriller, as well as an action movie. The choice really is yours to decide how you want to carry out a mission, and there are consequences for the choices you make. And it's not necessarily always going to be a oh, you failed this mission type of deal. There are certain beats that revolve around being stealthy and getting different storylines from that, or just going guns blazing and having to deal with the consequences of the story evolving that way. So, with that said, there are a few things that were a little surprising to me when loading up Call of Duty for the first time. One of which was there is no multiplayer on the campaign. And I know that's not exactly a deal breaker for a lot of people, but Modern Warfare kind of set the precedence in having spec op missions that would either add to the story or would explain certain parts of the story that were kind of left out. And that would allow you to bring in a friend and tackle these co op missions together, and it would give you special rewards, whether it was stuff for multiplayer or leveling up your account, which we'll get into how that works a little bit later. But the non-inclusion of multiplayer or co-op isn't exactly a bad thing. I do believe that they did focus a lot on delivering a great story and making sure that story felt authentic to Treyarch, felt authentic to the Black Ops universe, and allowed the player to essentially kind of be their own director in an action movie, using everything at your disposal that you either upgrade at your base, using certain kill streaks that were available during the campaign that are considered gear, and you would load up before a mission, bringing these types of equipment with you. So overall, the not inclusion of co-op isn't world ending, for at least not from my perspective, because of how great the campaign is. But it was just a small surprise that they did not include the Spec Ops co-op missions. So story aside, one of the more impressive things about Call of Duty so far has been the graphics. It's almost a meme at this point, I know, to say that Call of Duty is the best it's ever looked, because we say that every year. Every year, it's the best looking Call of Duty since the last one. I do think that the Call of Duty teams do a great job at making these games look hyper realistic. The AI, whether or not it's exactly intelligent, is one thing, but you do get the sense that you are in a lot of combat zones. The callouts, the dialogue being said, the way that the enemies behave from a distance, the reactions to being shot, they are very much improved compared to previous years. So a lot of the effort put into this game from a visual aspect, and also including running on consoles or PC, this game just runs beautifully on all fronts. So now the bigger question is, how's the gameplay? How is Omnimovement? One of the largest toted features that Treyarch was in particular about was this new system called Omnimovement. Omnimovement is essentially taking what you do in real life and applying that in game. So if you run forward normally, you're sprinting, but you can also sprint in every direction. You can sprint at an angle, you can sprint backwards, you can sprint left and right strafing. You're always sprinting, and I do believe that part of Omnimovement is pretty great. It's a little jarring whenever you first start because personally, I'm not used to being able to strafe at the normal running speed of a person. It was kind of always just a sidestep and a walk. So when you strafe into cover, you kind of like you get there a lot faster. Um, but that also means that the NPCs and AI are also using the same movement, so they are a little more harder to hit when it comes to running and gunning at the same time. They do use a lot of the Omni movement that is available to the player, but overall, they achieved what they wanted to achieve. A lot of the movement feels very fluid, especially whenever you go into the settings and adjust a lot of the movement assist. It's one of the things that I think Treyarch knew right out the gate. Some older players like myself would not be able to adapt as quickly as their younger audience who are spinning 360, jumping, vaulting, dolphin diving all over the place. They have a lot of features to help the casual gamer keep up in a way, and that is applied to campaign, it's applied to zombies, it's applied to multiplayer. So there is not necessarily a huge gap, but there still is a learning curve. And I do believe that the Omni system itself allows Call of Duty to feel the most fast paced it's felt since probably Advanced Warfare. And I know that'll probably get a lot of people upset, but Advanced Warfare, for what it was, I thought it did a great job in terms of overall player movement. And Call of Duty Black Ops 6 kind of brings that back to the fast pacedness. But it would have been cooler to have like more actions to take, like wall running and things like that. But I understand the grounded perspective they were going for, because not everybody's wall running across a ravine and stuff like that. Like, as much as it is an action game, they still stay true to the overall typical movement of a military shooter, and that's completely fine. Taking a step back from all the campaign talk, I did mention some things in terms of multiplayer and zombies. One of the biggest features that Treyarch has brought back to a lot of the community's appreciation is they went back old school for the account levels. Um, you no longer level up your account through anything else other than multiplayer. Multiplayer and zombies are the only two ways to level your account. There is nothing tied to the campaign necessarily that affects multiplayer, like cards and things like that. Um, they kind of went back to the drawing board. I do believe that there was a lot of discontent with Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and how like you had an overall level and there was no prestiging that felt the same. There was no real sense of progress or bragging rights necessarily. Like, you can have a level 1000 account, but like there was nothing necessarily that showed it. There were like this prestige awards, but it just didn't feel the same. It didn't feel like you were earning anything. And so they went back to the drawing board and they brought back the prestige system itself. So there are 10 prestige levels, and each time you prestige, you go right back to level 1 and you climb back up the roster just like we used to. And then after the 10th prestige level, I do believe there is the master prestige. And that's when you start getting these exclusive rewards to those who are really dedicated to the game, who enjoy playing the game 24/7. And there's a lot of bragging rights within the master prestige tiers itself. that essentially allow you to show off your dedication and being a fan to the game on your account, whether it's badges, titles, things like that. The other return was going back to mastery camos. Each game had mastery camos, but it wasn't how Call of Duty used to keep mastery camos. And Treyarch in the Black Ops series, I feel, has always done a great job of rewarding players for their skilled use in their favorite guns. And they returned the overall mastery camos and how to obtain them back to how it was originally. So completing objectives aren't is not tied to leveling your gun. Leveling your gun before, you had to max out the gun and then you would be allowed to access the mastery camos, which kind of didn't make any sense. So now they allow you to complete the mastery objectives while you're leveling your gun. And that essentially allows players to again focus more on prestige, because when you prestige your account and everything, you start back at level 1 and then climb all the way back up to the top. It's a weird like ritual, I feel like a lot of Call of Duty players enjoy, and I think that it is an overall right move for Treyarch to kind of start listening to the players truly and making sure that they allow players to feel accomplished in the ways that they're used to, but also including new adjustments to that system that make it feel more updated rather than going all the way back to the Black Ops 1 and 2 days of just a set reward list of you get prestige and then you go back and you get prestige again. There's actual, like, I wouldn't say battle pass rewards, but they're like battle pass-esque rewards that were created for each prestige level that allows you to obtain new skins, new tags, new badges, so on and so forth. Diving a little bit into multiplayer, haven't played much of it myself yet, obviously, because the game just came out. But playing the beta and then also playing some of the multiplayer on release, they did a really good job of going back to basics. The maps are all designed around 3-lane combat. There is a sense of thought being put into these maps. Spawn camping is and isn't an issue. I do believe that there are certain maps where it's easier to spawn camp, and it may accidentally happen due to the revolving respawns for each team. As a team puts pressure on the map, the spawns change just like they have been. But with how the maps are designed, they're a little more intimate, I feel, compared to Black Ops, or not Black Ops, but Modern Warfare 2 and 3. The Modern Warfare 2 especially had a lot larger maps, so it was harder to spawn camp. But the trade-off is that a lot of the time, the multiplayer feels more balanced. And there are the complaints that certain guns feel less powerful. It's not fair that I'm using an SMG and someone is a trick shot god with a sniper rifle, but I'm able to gun them down faster than they can track me. It is a balancing system that I think no one can ever be happy with, because there's always specific types of gamers that play Call of Duty a certain way, and I think that it takes adapting to this new Omnimovement system as well as adapting to the maps for players to really feel comfortable in the way that they play. Also, again, it's a skill issue. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it is a skill issue. Adapting to how each iteration of Call of Duty takes always a bit of time. But I've seen players straight up camp and do well. I've seen players run and gun and do well. It's just a matter of adapting. And I think that a lot of the time we forget that we have to adapt. And I've had fun with the multiplayer. I do believe over time players will settle in. They'll stop complaining about certain things that aren't necessarily complaints, but the skill issue conversation that no one likes to hear. With skill based matchmaking always existing in Call of Duty, it will ensure that players are matched up with their correct skill level. I think that helps casuals stay in the game. And there, sometimes people just have to learn that you can't always just completely dominate a lobby match after match. Like, there's always someone losing, and sometimes it's you. Now, going into zombies and taking a step back from multiplayer, um, zombies is a very interesting beast. Treyarch last minute showed off a lot of the changes that they did to zombies in accordance to player concerns and overall feedback. They changed the HUD so that it's less Warzone looking, and they are making sure that players understand that zombies is the round-based zombies that they wanted from the original Call of Duty game, Black Ops games to come back. It's not the weird Warzone-esque maps where you're extracting after killing zombies for X amount of time. They went back to round-based matchmaking or round-based zombie gameplay that tells a story. And one of the more interesting things that was kind of discovered, I'm not entirely sure if it is true at all, but there was some rumblings of the older zombie campaigns kind of being ported over into a remaster on Black Ops 6. So the zombie campaigns from Black Ops 1, 2 making a return, and also some other zombie campaigns that Treyarch worked on. There might be a remaster coming via the zombie multiplayer section. I'm not entirely sure what exactly that all entails. It was very sparse as to the overall discussion on it, but there is a sentiment that they will be bringing back the previous zombie Black Ops campaigns back into Black Ops 6. So now I'm going to take some time to kind of address an interesting issue that has cropped up over the last couple days. I think due to possibly the world's worst version of telephone. There was a discovery of early copies of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 that showed in audio there is a option to have enhanced audio. There was a sentiment that this audio is going to be a lot better, that there is a service that is being provided that is paid that would allow you to hear the game better, that improve the overall audio feedback and certain things like that. And again, this is all coming from the worst version of telephone, where one person is told something and then that person tells another person something and so on and so forth, but the details keep changing. The audio issue itself this is nothing new. There's a third-party company that exists, and they've done it for things like Final Fantasy 14, in which they offer a different, more quote-unquote accurate surround spatial sound audio experience. It is a very interesting, and as to whether or not it's actually helpful is another question all on its own. So what is being misrepresented is that this is something that is like putting people at a complete advantage. You're going to be at a disadvantage if you don't pay for this audio. It's $20. They're charging you to have better audio. It's not the case at all. The What people aren't including in a lot of the discussion and like kind of generating this manufactured outrage is that it is a third party service that is alleging that you'll receive a better audio experience. They're not taking like high quality audio files and then re-uploading them to your video game. They're not um, re-recording certain things and giving you crunchier audio or decompressing certain audio for you. They're using everything in game, all the audio levels in game. They're supposed to provide an accurate surround sound experience based off of pictures you send them of your head and your headset. So you're supposed to take pictures of you wearing your headset and not wearing your headset. And this third party company that again it is provided within Call of Duty, but it is not at all necessarily an endorsement by Microsoft or Activision for Call of Duty saying that this is the best experience. It's a company that comes in and says, hey, we can do this and we charge this amount of money. We charge players this amount of money. This is not either company that is responsible for making and publishing the game saying that, hey, we are doing this and we're charging you for it. It is a third party company coming in and doing this. They will take the photos that you provide and they'll tweak the audio adjustments in placement for your headset so that your spatial audio is more, again, quote unquote, accurate. Whether or not it's true is a whole different story. It is kind of ridiculous the amount of outrage this is generating because it's not providing anything extra. They're using the same files that are provided in the game. They're just adjusting the software that spatial audio provides. So it would be like, it's no different than you being at home and moving your surround sound system so that you properly hear where certain things are being played in like a movie or a video game around your house. It's the same thing, just in a headset, and they can tweak that software so that certain sounds are being played accurately to how you're hearing things within your headset. It is possibly the dumbest thing that I've ever seen as far as a service being provided, but it again is not taking away anything. You're not being forced to pay for better audio. It is just something that is provided through a third party service that Activision essentially was like, sure, whatever, you guys are paying us X amount of money, we will promote this service on our video game. It's not them saying, here, have exclusive access to our files and lock people out of having better audio. The audio is the same across the board. Whoever pays for the service is not getting anything extra other than better surround sound placement, if that's even true. And ladies and gentlemen, after all of that, that is Black Ops 6. I do believe that Treyarch really knocked it out of the park as far as campaign, listening to player feedback, bringing back a lot of oldies, and embracing a lot of new things that the Call of Duty series has provided. They tried their best to, I think, accommodate everybody, and there's always going to be people who wanted more from the game. There's going to be people who wanted less from the game. But overall, the sentiment, at least from my perspective, is that Black Ops 6 is a return to the original Black Ops series, to a lot of the fan favorite Call of Duty experiences. They are definitely listening to fans when it comes to overall feedback, just how quickly they addressed a lot of the zombie concerns. And I do believe, especially with Black Ops being on Game Pass now, that the game is definitely at least worth a try. The campaign itself is very fun. It's very action movie-ish. It's not along the same lines as like Mission Impossible or anything, but the overall generic espionage action movie is where the campaign lies. And I do believe that going forward, this is the right step that Microsoft and Activision should be looking at. And, the support for the game clearly shows that. Did it live up to a lot of the hype? That is to be debated necessarily. I think that it did, but there are a lot of people who aren't impressed with the Omni movement. There's a lot of people that still believe, rightfully so, that Call of Duty is very much just a copy paste shooter. Black Ops 6, I think, does a good job of kind of setting itself apart, at least from the Modern Warfare series. And I think that they did a good job of bringing Call of Duty back to its roots, which is what a lot of players wanted. The Whether or not the game is gonna stand the test of time is to be debated. There's always the meme of everybody hating a certain Call of Duty game 1 year, and then all of a sudden everybody loves the game, and it was the greatest thing since sliced bread a couple years later. So time will tell, but as it stands right now, the game comes with Game Pass if you have Xbox or PC. I do believe that there is no reason, at least not to give the game a try and see for yourself whether or not it lives up to your own personal expectations. There is a lot of debate, as to requiring always online, always having a subscription. And a lot of those things do suck, but at least from the perspective of if you're playing on Game Pass, at least you have Game Pass, so it's not that big of a deal. Just playing the game, jumping in a campaign, jumping in the zombies, and then getting at least your worth out of it. I think that Black Ops 6, for what it's worth, is at least a step in the right direction. For me personally, overall, I think that the game completely kills what they set out to do. And I'm very excited to see what happens from the multiple seasons after the initial release. Thank you guys for watching and listening to our first look at Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment. Let us know what you like, whether or not you like the game or not. Some feedback for us in the future, and we will see you in the next video.